Formed in 1968 in the Willowdale neighborhood of Toronto, they quickly erupted onto the rock scene in the early 70s with a bombastic sound. Soaring vocals, signature guitar riffs, and thundering drums. Rush. Three men created a unique, momentous, progressive rock sound, a body of work that would change the landscape of rock and roll. Bassist, keyboardist, and lead vocalist Geddy Lee, guitarist Alex Lifeson, and drummer Neil Peart embarked on a journey that would continue for over 4 decades. Their global popularity skyrocketed them into the 1980s with continued experimentation in sound. Rush earned a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and were appointed as Officers of the Order of Canada. What's most important to Rush is the music, their friendship, and their passionate, loyal fans. A rock and roll philosophy that earned Rush more than 40 million albums sold worldwide and decades of countless sold-out tours. Earlier this year, Rush celebrated their 40th anniversary with the epic R40 Live Tour. In June, they returned to their hometown of Toronto, Ontario, where they played 2 shows, the best of which make up Rush R40 Live, a CD-DVD set.
Thank you so much!
Now, another SiriusXM subscriber exclusive from our New York studios, answering questions from an intimate group of subscribers. Rush's Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson, joined by moderator, Academy Award-winning filmmaker, and best-selling author Michael Moore. This is SiriusXM's Town Hall with Rush.
Welcome everyone here to SiriusXM Town Hall with Rush. I'm Michael Moore, and we're really happy to have Geddy and Alex with us here today, and a fine group of super fans. How many of you have gone to the R40 tour? Who was there? Yeah, well, look at this. Yeah, all of you. How many more than once? and there's women here, guys.
That's right. Yeah.
I'm always wanting to dispel that myth.
That's right.
Because there are millions of women who are Rush fans. But I'm really honored to be here to do this with you today. I first attended a Rush concert back when they were basically still a Canadian band, but we're getting good, some good play in the U.S., at least in Michigan, definitely right across the border. And but I believe I saw you first in a minor league hockey arena in Sarnia, Ontario, which is right across the river from Port Huron, Michigan. Do you remember
Sarnia,
playing the hockey arenas?
Yeah, we played, I think, almost every hockey arena in Southern Ontario.
Yeah, and when we say hockey arena in Southern Ontario, we're not talking about 20,000
No,
people at the
they're every 10 feet,
Yes, right. Right. There was still some, like, the ice was still melting under the seats.
If you were lucky.
If you were lucky, right. So, and what was so incredible about the R40 tour is how you started the concert. If you haven't seen it yet, or you'll see it when you see it on video, starts in the present here in 2015. And then goes backward. You play the songs backward, but also the whole set changes until you end up in what I believe is a high school gym, right?
Right.
Was that your gym, or was it a gym? Was it a generic gym in Ontario?
Yeah, it was a generic Ontario gym that we sort of dressed up with our own inside jokes and named it the Rod Serling Secondary School.
Right. So, did that mean that high school was kind of like the Twilight Zone for you guys?
Wasn't it for everyone?
Yeah, pretty much.
But over the years, I saw you at the Coble Hall in Detroit, and then the Joe Louis Arena, the Palace. I've seen you in Florida. At what point will it sound like I'm a stalker and that you need to call security?
Keep going. Some of these, I'm sure, have been there.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
a lot more than that.
Yeah, we're in New York today, but I assume that some of you have seen shows outside of New York. What, for instance, where? Virginia, L.A., Florida.
Pennsylvania.
Where? Red Rocks. Oh, that must have been cool. That must have been cool. Well, so we have this audience here, and it's a town hall, so they've got questions that they would like to ask you. I'm going to start with my question, which I guess is sort of the Canada question. In my opinion, you are the greatest gift to us since hockey. It really, I mean, seriously, right? I mean,
thank you.
If Springsteen is kind of, when you think of New Jersey, or the soundtrack of this area, and you think of Bruce, when we think of Canada, really you're the first thing that comes to mind, and it's partly because of all this great music. Not just the music, though, these incredible lyrics that Neil has written over the years. But not just that. It's also just, there's something about you guys, and I said this to you a couple months ago here when I saw you at the Garden, that being from Flint, Michigan, being from the Detroit area, it's very working class, and you were a band that was beloved and is beloved by the working people, but you were also a very smart band in this progressive rock era that you come from, that the sort of respect you had for the intelligence of the working man and woman. I think that your fans, we really felt that. We felt that in Flint, and driving around a place like a factory town with the windows down and cranking your songs out there. It's one of those great experiences and memories of youth that I have, and I loved and appreciated the fact that it wasn't the same old. There was something so unique about it. Your voice alone, Geddy, there's no other rock voice like yours, right? It's and Alex, your guitar licks, the music. I want to ask you about that, and there's some questions here I know from people that would like to ask you about how the music comes together with. The sound comes from three people. It's the most amazing thing. But I'm just curious, do you think that there's anything in your Canadianness that separates you from the others, or was it inspiration to you because you didn't come out of the other rock zones that are in the U.S.? You came out of essentially Toronto, Canada.
Yeah, Toronto suburbs. It's a really good question, and it's something we've been asked in sort of different ways. But I look at it on a few levels. On the first level, as young musicians, aspiring young musicians, sitting in Canada, we were influenced quite heavily by British rock, because there is a connection between Britain being a Commonwealth nation. But we also had the great advantage of being exposed to American media. And through American media, we were also very exposed to American bands, Jefferson Airplane, for example, the Grateful Dead. So we kind of sit in the envious position, really, of being influenced by both, strong groups of coming musicians through the 60s and 70s. So that was a unique opportunity for us to learn from all these different bands.
Wow, that I can really see that. I think it's
and I think our longevity and our nature and part of who we are comes from the culture we grew up in Canada. That we are polite, we are considerate of each other. We are sometimes a little too apologetic.
Yes.
As Canadians are accused of being.
Sorry
about that.
Sorry.
I apologize for saying that, Al.
It's okay, but I'm sorry. It was my fault.
But I think there's something in our kind of working class, middle class Canadian natures that makes it feel wrong to give up too easily on each other. And it's evidenced by we're all people with long-lasting friendships, marriages, etc. So I think there's a Canadian thread into the way we behave.
I think too that and living on the border of Canada, I would see this. There's something about your culture. I mean, Americans probably think, well, they're just like us, and obviously you are in many ways, but in many ways, your culture is sort of wrapped around the idea of we. Mm-hmm. That there's a caring about each other. That I am my brother's and my sister's keeper. If you're hurting, then we're kind of all hurting. If that we all have to we're in this together. Obviously, your health care, all the stuff that you have in Canada. I've just noticed that over the years, and it's been inspiring to me actually just to look to. But the fact that you guys have been together this entire time. I'm sure you get asked this a lot too. How do you do this? Because you remain bandmates, you remain friends. This is a long time to operate in this concept of we. Yeah. And I've noticed over the years, all three of you are very careful each of you are equal piece of this machine, and that if any one of you were to drop out, it wouldn't be Rush anymore. It's like you couldn't hire somebody to replace Neil or Alex or you. I mean, maybe there is a Filipino kid that they could find that has exactly your voice. That's a Journey reference in case you. I mean, the kid is great. I mean, it's just he's mimicked the voice, and we will have a talent show after the show here today, if there's anyone in the room. But it's just I've just been impressed with that piece of you guys in terms of, I don't know, Alex, if you had any comments.
Well, we had a common love and a bond in our music, and that's really been the underlying thing. We've always wanted to be the best musicians we could be. We set high standards for ourselves, and we worked towards that together. And it's tempered with a common sense of humor as well. So we enjoy being together. We love being together with each other. We laugh most of the time that we are together through our work, through the tough times, through all of it. There's this bond that's been created between us. Part of it is the Canadian identity, but there is something else about it, that the three of us, through some quirk of nature, have been drawn together to work in this sort of little family and this little cell that's remained quite healthy despite all the external pressures that all of us go through. Right. But we've managed to get through that without being mean or nasty to each other or unforgiving.
Yeah.
I think there's a bonding that happened with us being, naive Canadian kids on our very first tour. Neil had only been in the band for literally 2 weeks, and we were kind of cast into America, and we were wide-eyed and green, and we had to kind of make our way. And I think in a strange way, even though we were just getting to know Neil and he was getting to know us, it bonded us almost instantly. Like we were this little van full of foreigners trying to figure out the great wide, vast American dream. We were trying to be part of that American dream and try to understand it. So wherever we went and whoever we played with, we still felt like we were outsiders, being Canadians.
A little island.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think our sense of humor developed at that point, and we realized, wow, every time we feel awkward, one of us says a joke, and that's really great. And that became a pattern for us. And then even when we'd have business meetings that we were supposed to have our business caps on, which we hated, we would just make jokes. And so it became our thing that kept us bonded and kept us going through life.
Your humor permeates. It's on the stage. It's in the art direction. It's in the videos. It's and of course we're used to Canadians being funny. I mean, we steal, I think, all of your best comedians from Jim Carrey on down, but all the SCTV guys and all that. But yeah, the humor, I think, is really, it's there, and you take the music very seriously. Every album is something different. You've experimented. You've tried different things. You were never going to be 40 years later in your 40th year an oldies band where you're just showing up to play the oldies but goodies. But you're just challenging us. the tour. I think 2 tours ago, you played the whole album. It was amazing how you do this, and it's just. I don't know. I'm all the better for having known you and having been able to be a fan of yours, and thank you for that. So,
thank you so much.
Anyways,
Oh, shucks.
that actually, when they say "aw shucks," they actually mean it. But why don't we start our questions here from the audience? And our first one is coming from your fan over there, John Albanese, as the first one.
Hi, it's a pleasure being here. Great seeing you guys. You have given so much to modern culture and to the youth of the world. What do you think your greatest contribution was?
Wow, that's a heady question.
Yeah.
It's very un-Canadian to answer a question like that.
You're asking them not to be humble now.
I don't know. I think in some ways, which certainly wasn't our intent when we first started so many years ago, but there's kind of a lesson about longevity in what we do and stick-to-itiveness. And if anything, I'm kind of proud of that. And it's aside from the music, and it's aside from, the fame and the accomplishments, but it's just a message to, young people out there or people that are struggling that, it's possible to try something you didn't think was possible and stick with it.
I would add that it's a wonderful thing to be able to have some sort of influence on people. And when we hear from our fans that we've had that kind of influence, especially a positive influence at a very dark time in their lives, that's a really amazing feeling. If you can teach somebody something and leave that with them, what a great legacy that is for anyone.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's true in so many of your songs, and I mean, they won't say this, but they do an enormous amount of charity work and have done so many things for various groups throughout North America and probably the world, but certainly the ones I know in North America. But I really do believe that if all you did was your music, if all you did was to give that person listening to the song, and maybe this is a good time to play the first the song that we're gonna play a couple of your songs if you don't mind here on the show. That this song to anybody struggling to get through teenagehood or high school, and feeling that you are an outsider, as you mentioned, that that nowhere is the dreamer or the misfit so alone. Yes. And anybody who is a dreamer or a misfit when they're young and feels alone isn't alone. There's millions of others like you. They may not be in that hallway in the high school. They may not be right there in front of you, but you are not alone. And I'll tell you, this song, and I think you fans know what I'm referring to, I just think is I actually believe this song has saved lives of teenagers who've heard this song. And I want to play it right now. It's called Subdivisions.
This is another subscriber exclusive. SiriusXM's Town Hall with Rush's Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson on Classic Rewind. Back to our moderator, Michael Moore.
Welcome back. Yeah, it's really one of the great rock songs of all time. Our next question comes from Howie Goldstein. Howie?
Hey guys, great to see you. What was your first big splurge after hitting it big?
Splurge. Did we hit it big ever? I think we hit it small and then slightly larger than small. And then
I do remember one time. It was right after we signed our first record deal. We got an advance, which was, like a fortune, but really wasn't. And the first thing we did is we went to a music store and bought all this equipment.
New gear, yeah.
And that was the most exciting thing ever, to go in and buy a brand new guitar and a brand new amp. And I remember it clearly, the day. It was sunny outside, and we were in the store, and everything's on the wall. And I'll take this. I'll take this. I'll take this. I'll take this.
Yeah.
Of course, we weren't making any salary or anything.
Yeah, we spent it all.
Were these American dollars or Canadian dollars?
Canadian
Good
dollars
question.
when that meant something.
That was, I think we were at least at par back in those days.
Yeah,
We were ahead a little bit, actually.
I think
a few
you're
cents ahead back then.
about 4 cents ahead of
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
It'll come back. Don't worry. Our next question comes from Laura Ward. Laura, where are you?
I'm right here. Hi, guys.
Hi, Laura.
When you came up with the set list for the R40 tour, did the fans have any influence on any of your decisions?
Yeah, I would say yes.
Yeah.
Because this tour for us was all about the fans. And early on, we discussed, playing, obscure tracks and favorite tracks. And then, we came to the realization that, wait a second, this is a thank you tour. This is a celebration of, everything we've been through and all the support that people have given us. So we've worked really hard to try to find that balance between songs we love to play and songs that fans really wanted to hear. And Alex was a big champion for certain songs that I didn't think would work out so well, such as Jacob's Ladder and Losing It. And he knew that those are songs that our fans really would love to hear us play. So, yeah, that was a big consideration.
And there were a couple of songs that I don't think you'd, at least, I don't know if you'd never played them, but you hadn't played them I hadn't heard them in a concert.
Well, Losing It, we'd never played live.
Never played live. Wow.
Because, it has a violinist. We didn't have one in the band at the time. And it also has no bass part. It's all a synthy violin thing. So putting it together was really fun because I had to write a part for myself. And then we got very fortunate to have two incredibly talented violinists take turns playing that with us. Johnny Dinklage, who is out there somewhere. I see him in the corner. And my good friend Ben Mink from Canada. So that was a first. And Jacob's Ladder, we haven't played in many years.
Mm-hmm. Right.
In fact, I thought we'd never played it when we did our first show. And I announced to the audience, well, we've never played the song. And the next day, the internet yelled at me.
Where is Keith Ruggiero? Right there, Keith. Go
Hey
ahead.
guys, Geddy, Alex, great to see you guys again. Fan for 40 years, the whole duration, 108 times seeing you guys live.
Wow.
Can't wait to see you
That's
again.
more than us.
This is actually my 108. This is actually my question along with what you're saying here. I was going to ask, what particular song has Rush never played? Now, I know a few, 108 years. What was your most
Played live,
noticeable one?
right?
Right.
Yeah,
What was
never
your
played
most
live.
noticeable one that you've never played live, right?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't quite understand.
You know, of all the songs on all your albums, and
Yeah.
we've all been to your concerts, but there are obviously many songs you've never played live besides Losing It. Is there a particular one that you get? There's a request constantly. When are you going to play? Or they're shouting it out in the audience. Play this song.
Didn't play and why? Right.
That's a good question. We tried to satisfy most of them on this tour. But there's always some you forget. Farewell to Kings probably is one of those songs because it was a very popular record and a favorite song of a lot of people. But it's not a song I can really sing and do it properly anymore. It was in a very tough key for me, and I didn't want to do a lousy version of it. So.
Yeah, and Fly By Night was sort of the same way. We talked about it. I think we tried it in rehearsals, but
And it just didn't feel like we could do it justice.
Are there some songs that they're studio songs? They're songs that are
well,
essentially
Losing It was a song like that. It was intended for studio only, and we almost always have at least one song on every record that we designate as a studio song that we'll never even attempt to play live.
Mm-hmm. John Patudo, did I say your name right?
You did.
Okay, you're up next.
Geddy, Alex, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet
So
you.
my question is, can you share your feelings on the current state of the music industry compared to when Rush was just getting started in the business?
Well, it's very, very different now than it was back then. Our
Let's see how polite you can remain now.
Our original record deal was for 5 records, with Mercury Records, and at that time we were making 2 records a year, and the record companies looked at bands as, you know, development things. Do a couple records, get the process to build. Maybe the 3rd record's the one where it turns around, and the next 2 records are, you know, the successful records for everybody. And there was a feeling of that effort as a group with the record company and radio and all of those things. Now it's quite different. Now what's left of record companies are more speculators, and it's you almost have to come with the record completed on your own before you'll even be considered, and even then it's only on spec. And if it does something well, then they'll sign you. And they sign these 360 deals that encompass everything that a band makes. It's very strangulating for a lot of young acts.
Yeah, what Alex says is really true. What was great about our era, and fortunate for us, was there was patience on the side of the record companies. They didn't expect you to be a finished project, finished thing unto itself. So they knew you were going to need some time to develop. But the financial thing has blown up, musicians really can't make money the way they used to, and record companies have to find different ways to make money. So now it's, as Alex says, you have to go into your own home studio, you have to develop your sound, you have to beg, borrow, and steal other musicians to play with you and hope that you can capture a moment, distribute it yourself on the internet and hope there's enough likes and hearts on something you've done, and then they'll take notice of you. So it's very hard. It'd be very hard to start all over again for us today.
Do you feel like we're missing out? We and people who love music, listening to music, that we're missing. Like there's just some great band or singer or many of them out there that under the old system, the cream would rise to the top, and we would eventually hear them, and there would be that patience. And that's how I feel. I feel like there's something in Cleveland going on right now, and we don't know about it, and we're not going to. And they may be online. They've got their Facebook site with their 78 followers, and how am I going to find out about this? And there used to be, what did they call the guys who used to travel around looking for talent? They would go to the bars.
The A&R people.
A&R people, right.
Yeah, that really meant something then. But I think now what you have is this tree that's got so many branches, and there's so many artists that are in small towns and large cities that are having to go kind of do it yourself, crowdsourcing, all these different ways, and they put their work up, but you have to really work hard to discover them. It was a more direct system in the old days. We'd all turn on the same radio station. We'd be told about the new act. You'd hear it on the radio, and my God, you'd be blown away. And so you could check them out and invest your time in them. And now it requires much more diligence on your own.
Because there was a system of what you would call in the art world curation. Yeah. That for starting with the A&R people, the record companies, but then also the CKLWs in Windsor, Ontario, which would be the rock station you'd listen to in Michigan, and the DJs really cared about this stuff, and they listened to everything that would come in, and in those days they got to actually pick the records they were going to play. That's right. There was no consultant, from
absolutely,
Connecticut telling them what to do.
I think also there's been a kind of force on television, the whole competition thing, where American Idol and all that thing, and it puts so much emphasis on a particular kind of artist, the great vocalist and the kind of show person, and it's kind of taken a lot of attention away from the good old dirty rock bands that are working away in some basement somewhere.
Right.
So I really think what we need in the world are more magazines, whether they're internet magazines or some kind of broadcaster that can, dedicate itself to exposing young bands, young talent. That would be just so great for people.
I'm actually right now hoping that there's someone listening to this,
Yeah.
and you just put out a great idea,
Okay.
and that this is going to happen. Certainly, with you have Sirius here. You have this is a version of we're listening to something over satellite, and there's not going to be a commercial break during this show, right? So we're not having to sell anything. So it's
Yeah.
you
It
know.
would be. I think people would love to know there's one place they can go and discover some band in Flint or in
Right.
Sarnia, Ontario.
Right.
That really is an awesome heavy metal band. Check them out.
I am Michael Moore, and you're listening to SiriusXM Town Hall here with Rush. And we'll go to our next questioner. We're here with a live studio audience in New York City. Amanda Tate, you're up next.
Geddy, Alex, it's so nice to meet you. It's great to
Hi.
be here. What song or album do you feel best defines Rush as a band, and why?
Well, there are a few possibilities, but I suppose long after we're gone, it'll be 2112 that will probably be considered the quintessential Rush album. I can say that I have quite a few others that are my favorites, but well, I love Power Windows. It's one of my very favorites. Of course, I love Clockwork Angels. I'm still super proud of that, and Moving Pictures. But somehow something tells me that 2112 is the record that sort of defined us as having an individual sound, and will be the one that travels time best.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, right. Up next is Jeff. Where are you at here?
Hi. Thanks for coming to talk to us today. What was the hardest song for you folks to complete, both writing and recording?
Sorry, we have to think about this stuff because we're kind of old now.
You could just say none of them were hard.
Yeah, all of them were hard.
They just
Wait a second.
Well, we talked about one album yesterday in that one interview about the difficulty in making the Hemispheres album. It was
Yeah,
What was difficult about it?
everything.
you tell the story.
Really. We didn't really have any material written. We went to Wales. We were going to use the same studio that we used for the previous album, Farewell to Kings, Rockfield. Nice little residential studio in the countryside. And we spent a month at the Manor, which was a farmhouse just down the road. And we set up our gear in the living room in the farmhouse, and we stayed there for a month to write the record. And it was really painful writing the record. It was, real tug and push and pull to get all the parts to work right together, and the way the lyrics were developing. It was another concept record, but we managed to get through it. And I remember we worked all night on the last day that we were in there, right through till 11 o'clock in the morning, when the crew packed everything up, took it to the studio, and then we came in the afternoon and started recording, with about 4 hours sleep. And the recording process was really tough. It was just everything was hard about it. The key that we were playing in, the parts that we were writing, we wanted to do the whole record as one piece, but we ended up doing it in sections. We finally, after about 2 months at that studio, went into London to do vocals and mix. But Ged, you can take over from that point.
Yeah, I mean, I know it sounds a bit vague, but we were very ambitious on that record, and we sort of overreached our abilities. And I mean that in the sense that we wrote a record that was so effing hard to play that we had to learn how to play it. Once you sketch a song out, it's one thing, but when you're trying to go for the take and you're trying to do the whole thing in one take, it was hard to play. And so we really had to push our abilities up and up and up to rise to the ideas,
But isn't that exciting also that the challenge that you've given yourself?
But you kind of lose the excitement in the pain.
Yeah. And when you play it live, it's going to be challenging to put it together then.
So when we moved to London to do the vocals, and when we had written the songs, I hadn't really sung them out. I had just kind of, yeah, that'll work. I figured out the melody and figured out it would all work. And then once it was all there, loud and proud, and I went to sing it, it was in a key that was really not good for me. It was so high. And it was like, oh my God, how am I going to sing this?
But
thing?
you're the master of the high key.
Yeah, well,
how high could it have been?
It was
higher
high.
than that.
It was higher than high. So I spent 2 weeks being tortured by my poor producer, Terry Brown. You do it again, do it again, do it again, until I kind of stretched my range and covered it. And by this time, we had been away from home for over 4 months, and it was just like pulling teeth. And then we went to mix the record, and we couldn't get the right mix, didn't sound right, so we changed studios, went to another studio, and that, of course, we were there longer and longer away from home. And finally, we got the mix right and finished it, and we were really super proud of it, but it was quite an ordeal.
Well, you read these stories, or you hear over the years, like the Beatles recorded their first album in one day. Yeah. Just amazing things. I was listening to NPR on the way over here, and it's Robert Louis Stevenson's birthday today, and he wrote Jekyll and Hyde, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, in a week. Like a novel.
So.
Yeah, right. I know. It's
well, maybe they should have written Hemispheres.
No, but then there's the albums that took 2 or 3 years that are classic, are some of the greatest albums of all time. That it's just, this as artists, there are some things that just flows right out. This has happened to you, right? Come on, you can think of a song or something that took no time and it became one of your greatest songs. Yeah. And then the story you just told, where sometimes it takes what it takes.
It takes what it takes.
New World Man was an example of that. I think we wrote that in an hour or something.
Yeah, and recorded
it that day.
New World Man in one hour.
Was like
really?
Yeah,
1 hour.
Pretty much.
Yeah, something like
we got together. We used to always save one song to write spontaneously. And we get in the studio, the three of us.
Take that, Robert Louis Stevenson.
Yeah. Well, our first album,
where's he today?
Our first album took a number of days just because we didn't have any money, and we had to do it kind of twice because the first version was so crappy. And Fly By Night, it took us 10 days to make because we only had 10 days.
Literally Fly By Night.
Yeah. Caress the Steel we spent 3 weeks making. And 2112, which we thought was going to be our last album because we couldn't believe anyone was going to go for this stuff. It took us 4 weeks, and we just said, to hell with it, blow the budget on it because we're probably going to have to get jobs anyway soon.
Right. Wow.
And then after that, we got somewhat successful, and we could end up with bigger budgets. So.
How about Spirit of Radio? How long did that take you? Do you remember?
That was relatively quick.
Yeah,
actually.
That whole record was a pretty smooth operation.
Because there's a happiness, there's an upbeat, there's something about it that it just seems like you guys were really happy.
Yeah.
To another band, I would say really high, but actually, in your case, I mean, seriously.
Oh, no.
No, yes.
We were just happy.
Just happy, yes.
Yeah.
I think we were well prepared for that record, if my recollection serves. Then in those days, we did take some time before the record to write, and we would go into the studio a little more prepared.
Yeah, the writing of that album came together very quickly, and it was kind of a nice change from Hemispheres. It was like we decided, we were going to write close to home. I think that was a positive influence, and we were just up for a change of style, and I think Spirit was one of the first songs we wrote.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't we give a listen to that? This is one of the great songs of Rush's 40 years, and you talk in the song, you reference the industry and the but it goes beyond the joy that we all have just driving down the road and listening to Rush, and it's encapsulated in this great song, Spirit of Radio.
This is another subscriber exclusive. SiriusXM's Town Hall with Rush's Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson on Classic Rewind. Back to our moderator, Michael Moore.
I'm Michael Moore. We're back here with Rush. I've noticed in the audience here, there are some, not just young people, but I mean young people probably at the age you guys first picked up a guitar, which would have been how old for first guitar? About 12 years old. Yeah. And how old are you over there? You're turning 13, so you're 12. And what are you over there? 12. And you're 12. Would you guys like to ask a question? Do you have one here? All right. Let's pass the microphone back there. And what's your name? There we go.
My name's Giuseppe.
Giuseppe, okay, go ahead.
My question is, what's the secret to your longevity?
Well, as we mentioned a little earlier, we're really good friends. Geddy and I have been friends since we were 13 years old. We met in junior high school, and we were also kind of a couple of outsiders. We hung around together. We loved music, all of that stuff. So we have a great foundation in our relationship of this friendship that's existed for a long time. And then with Neil in the band, and when we were talking about the sense of humor that we share and the common goals that we had, it's kept us together. And then there have been external issues that have happened that have been very difficult, very emotional, and we've weathered them as friends and brothers because we love each other.
And the thing is, though, the essential thing is that as musicians, we always wanted to make the same kind of music. And that is the single thing that breaks up most bands. When ego gets in the way, or just tastes change within a band, and one guy wants to, play reggae and the other guy wants to rock out. So those are the things that destroy a musical unit. And for some insane reason, we've always wanted to make the same kind of music. And even when there are new influences out there that we want to bring into our music, one guy might come and say, I'm experimenting with this idea. I know it's not rock, but what do you think? And well, if it's valid and makes it more interesting, it's like, yeah, bring it in. And so I think that's been a big reason for our longevity.
But the word love, you said the word love.
Yeah. He said the word love.
Yeah.
He said work.
He's a lover.
Okay.
He's a lover. I'm
Alex
a worker.
is the lover. You're the worker. And what's Neil? What do we call Neil? Speaking of actually,
no, he's not here, so we can.
Yeah,
call him whatever you like.
I think Neil would probably is single-handedly responsible. There was always the air guitar that everybody did. When you're at a concert, you're playing along with the band. But you go to a Rush concert, you see so much. We don't have cameras in here, but this is going on with everybody out there. They're playing air drums. I've never seen so much air drumming. At one of your concerts.
There's some really good ones.
Yes.
Send me your names. And
well, speaking of Neil, actually, we're talking to Mark, one of the studio audience members here beforehand, and he had I thought was a very, very interesting and good question regarding Neil, who is not with us here today, but I think he'll appreciate the question. Mark?
Yes, hi, how are you? It's an honor to be here with you. And before I ask my question, I was just thinking about maybe a suggestion for your next tour, that you love a challenge, and last tour you worked backwards as far as your set list. Maybe you can think about working backwards as far as the actual song, note to note backwards. That'd be a challenge.
Wow.
Okay, how often has Neil brought you lyrics and you had him interpret them for you?
Well, it's an interesting evolution, my partnership with him as the singer and the writer. In the early days, he would just write a song, and I didn't feel I had the confidence to criticize it, so I would just make it into a song. I'd figure that was my job. He'd write the lyric, and I would put it down, and Alex and I would form the music for it. But as time went on and we got to know each other better, and he would hear that, some ways of writing make it easier for me to express emotion, and some words are difficult, to put in a rock song. So he became an incredibly attentive and egoless songwriting partner. And so we would talk about songs, and it got to the point where I could just look at a lyric and know that what works and what doesn't work. And as our partnership evolved, he became more and more open to using me as a sounding board for him. Can you sing that? What can you sing that? And Alex and I would spend a lot of time with, reams of paper, various songs in front of us, and maybe gravitate to just one line from it and put it to music and sing it in a convincing way and send it to him, and he'd go, yeah, I get that. Okay, I'll rewrite the thing around that idea. And so it's really a joy to work with someone that is just happy to have written it, whether you use it or not, and that's rare. But it's been an evolution. It's been an important one because I think our melodies have improved, and our songwriting in general has taken on a much more emotional quotient because of the willingness of Neil to adapt lyrics to my singing style and help me bring more out of each song.
And how much can you correct or add or subtract to those lyrics of that song?
In the early stages, I had pretty much licensed to, respond to what I love, what responds to me.
Yeah.
And we discuss them over and over again. And sometimes there's a song like you're suggesting that maybe I don't quite get what he's after, and we have to talk about that a lot.
When that happens, anybody who's read Neil's poetry books, that and the lyrics sometimes are like, he must occasionally, when he walks in or he hands you or emails you lyrics, you must say, what
are you talking about? No, for sure.
What are you smoking, and can I have some of this? What happens in those moments?
It's really interesting, I ask him about what you're trying to get at, and I'll say to him before that, this is how it hits me. Is this how it hits you? Is this what you're trying to say? Because I am, in a sense, an actor in that regard, where I'm trying to express something someone else has written. So I want to get it right. At the same time, I have to feel it. And when I was younger, I didn't always have to agree in order for me to be that actor. But as I've gotten older through the years, I feel I do have to agree. I do have to believe in the sentiment, the thing he's talking about. And if I don't understand it, he's got to explain it to me. And we talk about it too, like how is this hitting you? And Al will give me his, interpretation of it. But sometimes you just have to.
Which will come first, the writing of the lyric or the tune, the music?
Sometimes there's a song that you take a song like The Garden, for example, where I just loved the lyric, and there was so much of it that just worked. And we sat down and we just wrote the song that I felt that lyric deserved. And it was a very happy and natural session. Other songs, we have all this music that we've put together, some of it's really intricate, some of it's insane to play, and I'll take bits of his lyric and stick one here and bits and put it there, and then send him a rough of it and see how he responds to it. And 9 times out of 10 he's all for it. So it's a pretty great working relationship.
Yeah, it seems like he's very happy to have you as his best friends. I mean, those of us who know the history of the band and over the years and tragedy that entered in Neil's life and the time he took off, and then he wrote a book about this.
Yeah.
Got on his motorcycle and just went across North America, and then when he was ready to let's play music again, there you guys. I mean, it's really you don't see this often, even just no matter just who you are amongst.
Yeah, it was a really black period. It was very hard to watch him go through that. We tried to be the best friends we could to him, and be there when he needed us. But he needed to run. He needed to find himself because his world had tumbled down around him, and But he reached out, and, we'd get these postcards from beyond. We never knew where he was, and then a postcard would come, and he would sit with a clue of where he was, and so you knew he's okay. And
I think so much of your music that comes from this heartfelt place, and in his lyrics you see it in that, but also with you, Geddy. I mean, you're a child of immigrants. In fact, you're a child of survivors, Holocaust survivors. Your parents, and I saw you speak this past year on PBS about this. It was very moving, and it made me think a lot about you and your art. And I'm wondering what part of it comes out of being a child who had parents that survived the Holocaust.
Well, yeah, it was, for me, I was born into a kind of a crazy family because there was so much pain that they had escaped from. But I was fortunate that my mom is an incredible person, and being still a typical mom in the sense that she was a master of using guilt, like a fine blade. But she talked about her experiences in the war. She talked about the camps. She talked about the horrible things that she'd had to endure.
She was in the concentration camps.
Yeah, yeah. And, she was in Auschwitz, and then she was in Bergen-Belsen, really two of the most horrible places.
That no one was really expected to survive from.
No. But she survived, and her sister survived, and her mom survived. And largely because of the efforts of her mom, they stayed together.
Did you have other family members that died?
Yeah, a lot. Yeah, on my father's side, they almost all perished. I think my father had 6 or 7 brothers and sisters, and only 3 survived. So I lost my grandparents. I never knew them on my mom's side and on my dad's side. Well, my mom's mom was the only survivor. But so when I became a musician, she was puzzled and confused, because it wasn't music, really. It was insanity. It just didn't equate to music, So, but when you're young, you have to do what you have to do. And my dad had passed away, and so the strong iron fist of the dad at home was not there to keep me in line, in a way. So I was free to hang around with him.
With Alex.
Yeah. And he was a terrible influence.
You'd never know looking at him today.
And we became friends right at that time, and it was the beginning of the end, and the end of the beginning. But after time, after we achieved a little success, I realized how much I'd put her through, and I felt terrible about it.
The guilt worked.
Yeah.
Because to survive all that and then have her kids giving her such a hard time, that's just not fair. So
right, but she ended up quite pleased with.
Oh yeah,
everything.
Well, now she's a rock star. Yeah. She loves it. She can't get enough of it. Somebody wants to interview her, sure. Just like oh my God.
Have you ever brought her out on the stage to sing along with the band? No. That's.
But it's funny. She's featured in a book that Dave Grohl's mom has written about rock moms.
Oh.
And she came up to Toronto to interview my mom. And it's a very sweet story, and they really hit it off. And my mom cooked for her, and they got along like a house on fire, and they stayed in touch. So when Foo Fighters came to Toronto not too long ago, her mom came. I said, I'm coming, and I'm going to get Mary to come out here. I'm sending a car for her, and sent a car for her and my sister, and they came to the show. And Dave put them right on the stage to watch the show. So there was the 2 moms sitting on stage during the Foo Fighters, and they were showing them on the big screen. It was like unbelievable. And they're waving to the crowd.
Is there a picture of this?
Yeah.
Have you seen the picture?
Yeah.
Okay, I got to find this and post it.
And, I wrote him the note thanking him. I said, you are just the sweetest man. Like, it was just, it meant so much to her. But, but she loves it. She loves the attention.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
That's
so I
great.
paid her back, I think.
Well, we're grateful to her and your dad and your parents too, Alex, for raising a troublemaker and influencing Geddy.
Exactly.
You're listening to a Sirius XM Town Hall with Rush. I'm Michael Moore, and we're going to go to our next audience member. Peter, where are you? Out there somewhere. Right there. Peter's got the next question, and we'll pass the mic down to him. Go ahead, Peter.
Pleasure meeting you guys.
Hi.
What do you have planned for the future? Is it music related, or are you looking into other outlets for your artistic expression?
Well, I think, we just came off the tour in August, and there was a lot of effort and work that went into it. And I think both for Geddy and I, we kind of needed some time to get over that and just sort of settled into enjoying some domestic time, some travel, being with family, all of those things. It's kind of nice, actually. And I would think that we'll probably continue this pace for the next little while, and then maybe in the new year we'll start getting serious about doing something. I'd love to get back together writing with this guy, and I think he feels the same way.
Yeah.
So that's in the cards at some point, but it's not.
But we have no
restricted
idea
to-
what the result of that will be.
What form that'll take?
Yeah, but we just want to do it.
Yeah, I got a banjo, so I'm thinking it.
Okay, you're laughing about that, but but the elephant in the room is, and we speak amongst ourselves online, us Rush fans, is we really, all of us going to this tour who went to see the R40 tour, had this kind of possibly sinking feeling that this might be the last big tour of you guys. That the rumor was kind of out there, and I was, you would play a song, and I would say to the person next to me, "I think that's the last time I'm ever going to hear that song live." It's like, right? Anybody feel that? I mean, so help us. Like you fall. Oh no! You couldn't see that, but Alex just raised his hand. What does this mean? I mean, is it possible that there is no more Rush? Is it possible that, or maybe there's Rush, but there's not going to be tours like that? Or are we all just nervous ninnies here, and we need to just chill and realize that you guys look fit and healthy and happy, and there's a hell of a lot more to come from you?
Well, it's a difficult question to answer for all those reasons you brought up. It's always emotional, but at this point, we're not able to agree on doing more tours. So at this point, it doesn't look possible for another tour. But I would say that being an optimist and a patient person, I hope that will change. I know that we've talked about more music as Rush, and that is certainly something possible. There are other ways of presenting our music to the public, and that's possible. And but we haven't discussed it since the end of the tour. The end of the tour was quite emotional for us as well, and we didn't really know what it meant, whether we would be back there looking at all your smiling faces again. And I love touring, and I'm ready to go on very short notice. But my life is simpler than my partner's lives. And Neil has a complicated life. He has a young daughter, a new family that he really feels pain to leave. And I understand that. And he has issues, physical issues, when you play like a monster for 3 hours. The body is not.
I don't know how he does it.
It's not cooperating with him, and it's very hard for him, and he pays a price. Like there are times when you see him backstage in the middle of a tour, and he's really suffering. So he's not sure he's got the fortitude to continue playing like that. But maybe there's an answer down the road after some time, and that's why we're trying not to be hasty in making any big conclusions. We just let everybody be and everybody find their center, and and see if we can come together with some.
Where are you
plan.
at with this? With this,
I'm glad I
Alex?
just heard that because now I know what we're doing.
Didn't you get the memo?
I mean, I feel exactly the same way. I felt very healthy on this last tour after having some issues over the last few tours. I felt great on the tour, and I loved playing every night, and I loved playing every note of every one of those songs. And I still have some in me that I would like to do. But for all those reasons that Ged just said, we do need to have a little time to just settle and see where it goes.
Have you thought about doing things like, say, scoring movies?
Sure.
Or, I mean, your music does appear in movies. It has throughout the years. But I would think that's something that would be fun to do.
There's all of that kind of stuff we'd like to pursue. Working with other people. I'm working on a couple little projects right now, just playing guitar for some friends.
Would you go out on the road? Like Tom Morello went out from Rage Against the Machine, went out with Springsteen on his last tour. Like, would you go out with Foo Fighters, or would you go out with somebody like, just for fun? I mean, just to do something like that?
Sure, my number is. Yeah, absolutely.
I think that would be fun. It's a whole different thing. There's it's very stressful, and there's a lot of pressure when it's your thing, whether it's in the studio or on a tour. But to be just one element of somebody else's idea, that's freedom. That's liberating.
And Geddy, as a film director, I've always thought you should be in the movies. Have you?
Thank you.
Have you? Right? I mean, have you ever considered acting at all, or?
Well, I've tried to act in our stupid films that we make before. In the shows, and we enjoy it, and Alex enjoy it, and
we've seen this. Yes,
we're hams, so we try to impose ourselves, and when we know friends are making movies and stuff, use us. Yeah. But sure, I'm available.
and you mentioned backstage also that you're possibly going to be helping to produce indie films. I don't know if you want to get into that now or not.
Well, there's a project I'm working on right now with a good friend of mine who's a Canadian writer, Dave Bedini, and we've been working for about 6-7 years on this independent film project called Baseballissimo, which is a story set in Italy, and it looks like it's getting closer to fruition, so that could be an exciting thing in the coming year.
This is like this Italian town where they're crazy about baseball, and it's just like it's like the only place in Italy that's nuts for baseball.
Well, there's actually quite a few. There's a lot of Italian baseball teams.
Really? It's like with basketball.
There are leagues.
There
are leagues, and this particular town is a town that they believe the American GIs first sort of taught the game to the locals, and and when you drive into the town, it says an Italian city of baseball. So it's sort of the myth that baseball, the Italian love of baseball, began there. So.
Right.
It's kind of a cool place, yeah.
Let's go to another person in the audience here. Felicia Gallo is in the audience, and
Hi.
Yes.
You guys are so special. I'm sure everybody feels that way. It's great to be here. Despite your enormous success, you have all managed to stay grounded. To what do you attribute this?
What do you mean by grounded?
Well, they have a great sense of humor.
Yes, we've established
they
this.
seem very stable in their lives with their loved ones, and I just think that's wonderful to see.
Well, we have strong families. Both Geddy and I are married to our wives for 40 years. That's a large part of it. Oh, there's my wife over there looking at me right now. But that's really an enormous part of it, to have that support and strength, especially through those years where we were gone for months and months and months on end, and they held the fort for us. And that's a very, very key part of it. You can be a rock star on the road, but when you come home, it's a different story.
So her question, and I think people who are listening to this right now are really kind of, what did you just say? you are rock stars. You play on the road constantly, and you've been married since you were 20?
Since 1976.
No, I think I was 7 when I got married.
That's legal in Canada, yes. No, but seriously though, that's how really. What's the secret formula here?
Well, it's the secret formula is that it's the hardest thing you're ever going to do in your life. Never mind work, never mind any other of your interests. The hardest single thing to do right is to be married. And, we've all had moments where it was stressed to the point of breaking because we've been absentee partners. So you have to hope that your partner is A, understanding, B, independently strong in their own sense of themselves, that they can say to themselves, well, he doesn't have to be here for me to validate who I am. And when you do come home, they can express their displeasure at your absence quite clearly. So,
and then you can take it.
And you can take it, and you can learn from it, and try to be a better husband, and try to be that parent that has to be present. When you're there, you got to be there. You just can't come home and assume that you're just going to be this guy that is treated like you are on the road. You just like get out there. First thing I do is I want to wash the dishes. I want to take the garbage. I want to feel like I'm part of the household. Spend time with my kids, be the best parent I can. And I do feel guilty for all the absences over the years. And that's just part of being a Jewish musician, I think. But seriously, it's a difficult task to stay married. I'm sure you all know this. It's no news. So you have to dedicate yourself to your partner and listening to them and try to hopefully make it a two-way thing.
Well, that's very powerful, and we're running out of time here, and we've had a great studio audience here, and thank you, all of you, for coming. And I've noticed through the glass windows we have another studio audience has appeared out there, but because of the soundproof nature, we can't hear them. But there are. Yeah, there's some kind
They're
of
yelling.
They are yelling.
They're crying. No,
they're crying.
Somebody's got a fire going there. Wait a second, it torches.
They've got marshmallows.
This is a different kind of crowd out there.
You're going to have to walk through this crowd in a few minutes to leave the building. I just want to say before we close, again, just my enormous admiration for you as individuals, for your music, but also maybe I can put myself in the position of speaking on behalf of your fans here and the ones who are listening. What you said a few minutes ago about not knowing the future and what may happen or not happen, and the toll it takes on a band to pull this off in this magnificent way that you've pulled it off for 40 years. We want you to know that we want you to do what's best for you. We're not greedy fans. One thing you've taught us through your music is to be who we are. And to be respectful of others, and to really, you've brought so much to us for us to sit here and go, no, give us 40 more years. It's like first and foremost, because we love you, we want you to be happy and fulfilled, and do whatever it is that you think you need to do with music, with movies, with whatever, whatever you choose. We're foot soldiers in your army. And is that? Can I speak on behalf of everybody here? So, thank you for everything. Any final words you'd like to say here to the people here, to the people listening out there, your millions of fans?
That's pretty awesome sentiment, and it's really. I know how heartfelt it is, and I really appreciate it. And we've been given amazing lives by our fans, and they've always allowed us to be the idiots that we are. for some reason, they've had faith in us, and we hope that we haven't let them down. And I do hope there'll be more opportunities for us to try to not let you down.
Hear, hear. I hope that that's true, but I'll take it any way you give it to us. And thanks for making this one misfit feel not so alone over the years. Thank you, Alex, Geddy Lee.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Michael.
Neil, you're out there somewhere. Our wonderful audience here at SiriusXM Radio Town Hall with Rush.
You've been listening to another subscriber exclusive, a SiriusXM Town Hall with Rush, moderated by Michael Moore. Hear it again tomorrow, 2 a.m. Eastern, 11 p.m. Pacific on Classic Rewind and anytime on demand on the new and improved SiriusXM app.